Welcome into the Fantasy Football Diagnostics Podcast, where we provide you with your weekly diagnosis of everything fantasy football. Whether it's season-long leagues, dynasty, DFS, or sometimes even IDP, we got you covered all year long. Let's do it. Let's get to it. Welcome into the Fantasy Football Diagnostics Podcast. Today is October 24th, Monday. I'm your host, John June, and it is a solo pod today. Greg feeling a little bit under the weather, but no worries. Got you covered either way. This is our Week 7 recapping the week that was thus far. Obviously, we are still waiting Monday Night Football with the Chicago Bears and the New England Patriots. But we do have enough of the fantasy-worthy action and news that transpired over the weekend that we can discuss here with y'all today. So, hopefully you are either on the right side of a win or you are potentially waiting on some players from this Monday night game to get you that win. And hopefully you got the win without any collateral damage because there were quite the injuries this weekend, which we'll obviously jump into a little bit of that. There's some gut punches hurt more than others. Maybe you're a fan of a particular team that suffered multiple gut punches, and here we are. So, if you're listening, you're watching, however you may be consuming this content, just please make sure you like, subscribe, all of that fantastic, good stuff, so that you can keep getting this wonderful content here. So, without further ado, let's jump into the quarterback swags. And we'll talk about a little bit everything as we go through, right? You know how we do. We'll break down the quarterback swags, talk about who played well, some honorable mentions, the Jags, those just the guys, and react to the injury news as we see fit. But let's start with these quarterback swags. The number one quarterback on the week, Joe Burrow, 34 completions on 42 attempts, 481 passing yards, 3 passing touchdowns, 3 rush attempts for 20 yards, and a rushing touchdown. So that was 39.2 fantasy points in your standard quarterback scoring. What can we say, man? Joey B was on one. I think at half he was like 303 touchdowns or something like that. So, Joe Burrow was on one. He for sure was on one. Jamar Chase 8, Tyler Boyd 8, T Higgins 8 a little bit. So, got everybody involved here, and it was quite the performance here. So definitely what you wanted to see if you drafted Joe Burrow. Definitely those, one of those big performances that you really look forward to when you draft a guy like Joe Burrow in those earlier rounds. Moving on to the QB2 on the week. I knew it was going to be a good week, but I didn't think it was going to be this good. I can't even front. Like Daniel Jones, 19 of 30, 202 passing yards, 1 passing touchdown. Had 11 rush attempts for 107 rushing yards and a touchdown there for Daniel Jones. That was 28.7 or 28.8 fantasy points there. This was a fantastic performance, man, by Danny Dimes. Daniel Jones, yes, he's earned the moniker again. This kid is winning football games, man. I mean, the Giants, you look around, they don't have much at receiver. They don't have it's just him and Saquon Barkley pretty much every week. I had a friend describe to me today, doesn't really watch football, but he's watched. It's the first time he watched the Giants all year, and he was like, "Yeah, all they do is run with their quarterback and their running back." And that's a pretty accurate description of what the Giants did to win this football game. Daniel Jones, man, I mean, again, he's going out there with different receivers every week, and he has the Giants at 6-1. Giants are going to be in a little bit of trouble, man. I mean, that draft pick is going to be good. You're not going to be able to get a quarterback. Daniel Jones is going to be coming back on a potentially you're going to have to pay Daniel Jones to come back here because they declined the 5th-year option. So it's going to be interesting to see what the Giants do. But I think Brian Daboll is, building and establishing a great culture there with the Giants, and it's a winning culture and one that, let's say you bring in a quarterback like Bryce Young or something like that they can definitely fit right in and get in line with that culture here. But Daniel Jones, this is his team right now, his hour, and the QB2. He's a guy that we're going to talk about a little bit later when we talk about the waivers. But when he's running like this, and he was dealing with the high ankle sprain these last couple of weeks, but when he's running like this, this is good for fantasy, right? We talk about it all the time, these rushing quarterbacks. And right now, Daniel Jones, you kind of get a discount on because he's Daniel Jones. So let's move on to the QB3 on the week. That would be Patrick Mahomes. 25 of 34, 423 passing yards, 3 passing touchdowns, 1 interception, 26.9 fantasy points there. I mean, this is kind of what you expect from Patty right now, right? Like when the Chiefs are rolling, it usually has to do a lot with, has a lot to do with 1-5 back there in the pocket. And so fantastic performance by him and just ripping apart this Niners defense, who we talked about it when we were breaking down the Niners that, they're dealing with some injuries and they're banged up, but it didn't seem to matter. Well, it didn't seem to matter because those guys were out there, the guys that were dealing with injuries and banged up. And that didn't seem to matter for Patrick Mahomes. The fact that this defense was at full strength and Patrick Mahomes has got this Niners defense at a place where they were full strength and, completed 73% of his passes over 400 yards. That's over 12 yards per attempt and 3 touchdowns. That's pretty good there. I'm not going to do the whole pretty good because I've never seen that show and I don't really feel like, so I've never seen Curb Your Enthusiasm, but I don't really feel like I can make that joke without really having seen it. So I'm not going to do it. Let's round out these quarterbacks. Wags, though, coming in at, round out this top 12. Andy Dalton comes in as the QB4, Trevor Lawrence, the quarterback 5, Justin Herbert 6, Davis Mills 7. That would be my quarterback stream of the week. So all right, I gotta hit the button real quick. Davis Mills, my quarterback stream of the week at 7. Kyler Murray comes in at quarterback 8. Greg's quarterback stream of the week, Jimmy G, coming in as a quarterback 9. Tua Tagovailoa, my start of the week, coming in as the quarterback 10. I'm not going to hit the button because my man only scored like less than 16 points, so I ain't going to take credit for that. Aaron Rodgers comes in as the quarterback 11, and then PJ Walker coming in as the quarterback 12. Performances that kind of stick out in this top 12. I mean, the Daniel Jones one, I think that's sustainable because of the legs. He's not going to run for 100 yards every week, but definitely sustainable with the legs. The 201 could have, I'm gonna be honest, I didn't see this game in its entirety. I'll have to go back and watch it. But from what I gather, just reading clippings and with general reaction is that Tua didn't play great and it could have been worse. Apparently 4 interceptions were dropped. This is a game that I took Miami to cover. I think a lot of people expected Miami to cover. There are some things that play right, like things that I didn't discuss. We didn't discuss when we broke down this game. Brian Flores, the senior defensive assistant in Pittsburgh, is the former head coach for the Miami Dolphins. Had been around Tua every day for like 2 years, so he obviously has an idea. What makes him uncomfortable, things he can do, things he can't do. So, things like that happen in the NFL. Game planning things happen, and those types of things. Those are the types of things that obviously we try to stay privy to, but you can't predict and prepare for everything. I wish I could, because then I would be making all of us rich, all of us. Anyway, let's talk about I guess that's really it. There's nothing really here from a quarterback standpoint that these guys really stuck out and make me feel like, we should keep an eye on them. PJ Walker, I know he finished in top 12. That's great. But I would argue that had more to do with the week that we were dealing with that quarterback than the performance by him, although them beating the Tampa Bay Bucks, rather, the Carolina Panthers beating Tampa Bay Bucks, that probably had to kill some survivor pools. I'm sure people were banking on that Tampa Bay to cover, not even just cover the 13.5 that it became after they traded Christian McCaffrey away, but just to even win the game. And a lot had to do with Tom Brady, who finished as the quarterback 18. So again, not great. And like I said, I don't want to play this offense. Like, I don't want to play anybody from Tampa Bay. Like, not anybody. I don't want to play Tom Brady. Like, there's no reason for me to want to play Tom Brady. He hasn't done anything well through, these first few weeks. We're in week 7. I keep saying few weeks, but these last few weeks, he hadn't done much. Granted, I get it. That offense is banged up. But yeah, there was nothing really that made me excited about this matchup. And I know people were. You see them being 13.5-point dogs, which don't get me wrong. I thought Tampa Bay would handily win this game. But I also was betting on Carolina to just lay down and give it to them. So I guess that was my mistake there. But Tom Brady, I was not expecting to play well. So not shocked. I think I would be willing to trust Daniel Jones the rest of the season over Tom Brady. And it might sound like a hot take. I don't frankly care. If my quarterback has a chance to run for 100 yards, I'll take it. Tom Brady's not playing great. Tom Brady looks like he's looking for a mid-game trade. Just trade me during the game, right? I feel like Tom Brady his body language was screaming that. I would rather be in Miami. Hey, send me to Jacksonville. Hey, the Jets look pretty good. Put me on that roster. I feel like Brady just doesn't want to be in Tampa Bay right now. And his play is not well. It's not doing well. I mean, Brady talked about seeing a lot of bad football. Probably looking at that Bucks film. Geno Smith, cute quarterback 15, played great from a football standpoint, winning a football game, only had 7 incompletions, so still above 70% on the completion percentage, 2 passing touchdowns. Just wasn't the big day that I think we thought we would have from Geno Smith, and you'll hear about that more in a little bit. And then Mariota, Arthur Smith, man, what are we doing? And this is a conversation we could have all day because every Atlanta player is going to be a Jag unless you play running back or remotely, run the football. You're going to be a Jag, because in a game where they're losing 35-17, the Atlanta Falcons are losing to the Joe Burrow led Cincinnati Bengals. You tell me that Marcus Mariota and the Atlanta Falcons attempt 13 passes, 13 in a game in which you lost by double digits, and it wasn't close, and you just continue to run the football? I had been saying oh, well, it's going to get better because, it's not going to change until they start losing, right? They keep winning, so it's not going to change. They're going to keep running the football until they lose. And this game script, I'm this is the perfect game script. But they don't throw the football. You could add, there's a lot of things that transpired over the football weekend that you could add to the list of things that made I don't want to say my blood boil, because that just makes me sound like I was super angry, when I wasn't really angry. I was a lot more sad. Yeah, that would probably be the emotion that I would say described how I felt watching football on Sunday, specifically around 4:30 Eastern time. And obviously we'll talk about that in a little bit. But yeah, I mean, Jared Goff, I mean, were you playing him against Dallas? I hope not. I can't think there's not much else. Oh, Dak Prescott. That was Greg's start of the week. I don't know about that one, man. It's tough. It looked like they went to the um, the Cooper Rush quarterback game plan, which was let's run the football because we can against Detroit because they're terrible at stopping anything, especially the run game. And combine that with the fact that Detroit couldn't really get much done offensively. Dak didn't really have to, to throw the ball down the field all that much. So I think that's really it for the quarterback. Jags don't have much else there. So let's move on to these running back swags. And the number one running back on the week, that would be our guy, Austin Eckler. My man is back. Thought he was dead. I'm sorry, Eckler. I tried to say you were done. Not done, but tried to put you in the panic room. I was nervous. But Keenan Allen is still not playing. He played limited. He left the game. They said he could have gone back, but coaches are all liars. So, Austin Eckler balling, 9 rush attempts, 31 rushing yards, and a touchdown. But where he made his mark felt, 12 receptions on 12 targets, 96 receiving yards. That's 36.7 PPR points. Gotta love the performance there by Eckler, who, again, they hit negative game script. They lost by 14 points, so the rush attempts weren't there. But those targets, man, they were there, and Eckler came through. And there's no, Joshua Kelly was added to the injured reserve, so Sony Michel is really the only competition he has for these rushing yards right now, or for these rush attempts right now. So, I keep rolling Eckler out there, man. Keep letting him win you these weeks. And the RB2 on the week, who I had him down as the RB1, but just eked out by Eckler. Josh Jacobs, 20 rush attempts, 143 rushing yards, 3 rushing touchdowns, added 3 receptions on 4 targets for 12 receiving yards, 36 and a half PPR points. My man was killing out there, averaged 7.2 yards per attempt. This Houston defense is Swiss cheese, and Josh Jacobs, with all the volume he's been getting, continue to eat that up. So Josh Jacobs, he's one of the best finds in fantasy right now. He was not a late round value, but he was a guy that was a value at the running back position, was going around that running back dead zone, and nobody wanted to touch him, me included. Like, he was playing in the Hall of Fame game, Josh McDaniels, all that stuff, and here I am with egg on my face because I wish I had Josh Jacobs. I got none. So, fantastic performance by him. And then the running back 3 on the week. Shout out to my man, Kenneth Walker the third, his running back start of the week. Let's hit it. 23 rush attempts, 168 rushing yards, and 2 rushing touchdowns, man. 28.8 PPR points. Kenneth Walker is a league winner. That is right. My man, Kenneth Walker, late round value. I mean, I know that he was talked about as the top waiver priority these last couple weeks with the Rashad Penny injury. Not available in any of my leagues, but this dude, if you had him, if you were able to scoop him up off waivers, or you drafted him and you were holding on to him for the inevitable Rashad Penny injury, it is paying off for you in a major, major way, because this guy is going to be a weekly RB1. I mean, with the volume that he's getting, there's no, not just the volume. This is a talented football player, right? Like, this guy is, the runs that he's able to create, right? Like, he creates yardage. This guy doesn't just, there's a lane, I'm going to run through it. Like, no, this guy creates his own lanes. He's a crafty runner, and he's really fun to watch. So, Kenneth Walker, big ups to you, and we know it's going to continue, big dog. So, let's move on to these running back swags, the rest of these running back swags. And Aaron Jones, and I've been saying it, you got to be patient with this guy. The Packers, they're terrible right now. They need ball players. They need good football players. Aaron Jones is that. He's already in their ball club, so they got to find ways to get him involved, and they did just that with an RB4 finish. Benjamin coming in for an RB5 finish. At the RB6, we got Raheem Mostert. At the RB7, Travis Etienne. At 8, we got Nick Chubb. 9, Gus Edwards. 10, Joe Mixon. 11, Ezekiel Elliott. And RB12, tied for the RB12, we have Saquon Barkley and Alvin Kamara. So rounding out, or recapping this top 12 guys that kind of stuck out to me. The Travis Etienne one, I mean, that backfield is officially his now. James Robinson, I believe, did not record a touch, evidenced by the 0 fantasy points that he scored in my lineup, which I reluctantly played him. But bye weeks, man, you got no choice sometimes. But the Gus Edwards coming through, he was active, basically making. So I'm going to talk about a little bit. Kenyon Drake disappeared, but we did say if Gus Edwards goes, probably going to pivot away from Kenyon Drake and company, and that would have been the right decision especially if you could have pivoted to Gus Edwards, who I know Greg talked about. He's been talking about as somebody that we should add because he was healthy and coming back and all that stuff. So definitely hope you took that advice. If not, hopefully it's not too late. Joe Mixon, good to see him get in the end zone. The rush attempts were great. The efficiency, not so much. But again, got in the end zone, saw 3 targets. So he's, 17 rush attempts. So still heavily involved in this offense. Just need those touchdowns to fall. On the season, when you look at prior to coming into this game, when you look at running backs who have had carries inside the 5 and the 10 and how many of those that they've converted to touchdown opportunities, Joe Mixon is a leader in terms of how many touchdowns, when you take how many expected touchdowns he should have versus how many touchdowns he actually has, and you subtract the actual from the expected, he actually has the highest delta in terms of what his expected touchdowns should be. And that was before this game. So good to see him convert there on a goal line rush attempt. Rounding out, who else in this running back that had a good, Benjamin, we'll have to see what happens with James Conner as the week goes on. He was a guy that, I've been basically stashing, waiting for the, eventual James Conner injury. And it finally has come through for us there. Not good that James Conner's injured, obviously, but the fact that Benjamin is playing well, because James Conner could still be injured and Benjamin can play like crap. So there's that too. Rounding out this top, not rounding out this top 12, but just some guys that I want to highlight. Antonio Gibson is not dead. I know Brian Robinson had 20 carries, which was good. That was fantastic. He actually did see targets this time, which was also good. But Antonio Gibson was involved, 10 carries, saw 4 targets, 3 catches, and caught a touchdown pass, a nice one in the red zone. So definitely fantastic news. Damian Pierce continuing to see that volume. That's great. Deontay Foreman, who, tell me if you had this on your week 7 bingo card. Deontay Foreman, a top 16 running back against Tampa Bay. Yeah, interesting. Chuba Hubbard, also a top 19 running back. So after not allowing, I forget what the stat was, but I saw it earlier on Twitter, but after not allowing, shout out to Jeremy, by the way, at Popes FF, after not allowing, I think, a top 36 running back finish all year, they allowed 2 top 20 finishes in the same game against the Carolina Panthers without Christian McCaffrey. Quite interesting stuff. NFL always finds a way to humble you. Breece Hall, that is the sad news. Finished as the RB20 thus far on 4 carries for 72 yards and a touchdown. So at least, if you played him, he got you some points before he left. But my man, Breece Hall, my breakout running back for the 2022 season, of my beloved New York Jets is out for the year with torn ACL. And it hurt. I don't even know how I'm here functioning in front of y'all on this mic right now talking about this because it hurts my heart. I'm in a lot of pain. So, yes, I'm okay. Made it. Had, almost 24 hours to cope with the news now. So, a little over 24 hours to cope with it. So, we'll be okay. Just pray for a speedy recovery for you, Brees. You were balling, and we'll see you next year when you come back to balling. And I think that is all I want to highlight for the running backs. Let's talk about some running back Jags, though. We woke up on Sunday morning. We got the news. Isaiah Pacheco was going to be the starting running back over Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Didn't seem to matter, though, because Clyde still got a touchdown and finished as a top 30 running back, while Isaiah Pacheco finished as the running back 44. So not great. I think all it really did is it muddied up the backfield a little bit more, where instead of seeing like 10% of the work now, Isaiah Pacheco is going to see like 30% of it, which is great for Pacheco because typically when a talented player tends to see more work, right? Like, and they make good things happen, which Pacheco did, average 5.4 yards per carry on those 8 rush attempts. But what it does is it tends to allow that player to get more work. And so Isaiah Pacheco's already done that. He's basically got a promotion. And it came with some more touches, and hopefully he can produce well and show that he deserves another promotion, to say the least. Christian McCaffrey came in as the RB31. I mean, there was no way around this. You had to play him. I'm sorry. Like, I don't feel bad telling people to play Christian McCaffrey. Like, you couldn't play. Were you honestly going to play Deontay Foreman over him? Chuba Hubbard against Tampa Bay? Were you really going to do that? Probably not. So, I'm sorry. Unless you had, I don't know, and like you weren't going to start Antonio Gibson, you weren't going to start, unless you had like Damian Pierce or Derrick Henry or one of these guys, like Daria Gumbawale, Tyler Algier, like Brian Robinson, maybe you would say Brian Robinson over Christian McCaffrey, but all of these guys, and I'm listing only guys that finished ahead of Christian McCaffrey, by the way. So, yeah, I'm sorry. Sorry, not sorry. You have Christian McCaffrey. It'll be great. Like, he'll do great next week. And I'm sure that, we will forget that this week against Kansas City happened because McCaffrey is going to do good things, I feel, in San Fran. Melvin Gordon, were you really going there, though? I don't know. There's a lot of things going on in Denver, things I don't think I want a part of. Jamal Williams, that was disappointing. Didn't get the touchdown, lost a fumble. So, just not fantastic performance by him. Leonard Fournette, again, terrible performance by this entire offense. They, and once Carolina got to a point where, they were, up and this game was becoming more and more out of reach, Leonard Fournette became basically invisible. And I think that's really it. AJ Dillon. I think we got to wonder if AJ Dillon is a snip candidate. If he wasn't Aaron Jones's backup, like we would probably have. We wouldn't even be looking at him as a flex right now. How do I say this? We came into the year. I came into the year thinking AJ Dillon had standalone value, RB2, would have spike weeks, and has this built-in upside where if anything happens to Aaron Jones, this guy can be a bona fide RB1. And this entire Packers offense has stunk. We haven't seen the touchdown opportunities haven't really been there. They haven't really had positive game scripts where they can get up on teams and run the football. So what does that really make AJ Dillon right now? He's a insurance policy only. and that's really what he is. So I think going forward, that's how we have to look at him. I don't think he's a flex option. I don't think he's anything more than just an insurance back. So until the Packers show us differently. And I think that's really it. That is really it. So let's move on to the wide receiver swags. And this week was interesting. The number one wide receiver on the week, that would be Jamar Chase. 8 catches on 11 targets, 130 receiving yards, 2 touchdown receptions. Good for 33 PPR points. This is the Jamar Chase that you drafted, right? When you drafted him, this is what you were expecting. Back-to-back 30-point weeks, and we're getting it now. Somebody had said, like, oh, can I buy Jamar Chase? I don't know. It might be, they're asking us last week before this game. I don't know. I think we're past that, right? This is the game, the 30-point game that we got last week against New Orleans. That was the game that people were waiting for. It is too late. The window's closed. Just remember, next time you see a talented player like this going off, or who goes off, and then the next year, I don't know, maybe they don't go off after a few games. Maybe you want to buy in. I don't know. Just saying. I know it's always nerve-wracking, right? You gotta buy a player who's underperforming, but we're betting on the math, the law of averages, right? The Clyde Edwards-Helaire, right? Like we were saying sell, 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 sell. People are like, oh, but I don't want to sell. He's getting all these points, but it's not sustainable. Jamar Chase, the way that man is built, that's sustainable. Let's talk about Tyler Boyd. His teammate finishes as the wide receiver 2, 8 catches on 9 targets, 155 receiving yards and a touchdown, 29.5 PPR points. My man Tyler Boyd was killing. Not much you could say about that there. I mean, Joey B was, again, he was on one, so all his receivers got to eat, including Tyler Boyd, who tends to be the forgotten man. I think he was close to a second touchdown too, if I'm not mistaken, but tends to be the forgotten man in this offense. And not this week he wasn't. Or maybe he was forgotten by Atlanta. Maybe that part. Let's move on to the wide receiver 3 on the week. And if you hear that, that is all my best ball teams feeling real nice this week. After Mecole Hardman goes 4 for 4, 32 yards, a touchdown, adds 2 rush attempts for 28 yards and 2 rushing touchdowns, 28 PPR points. All I thought about when I saw this stat line is, well, damn, Patrick Mahomes' stat line could have been that much better, because these 2 rushing touchdowns to Mecole Hardman, what are we doing? Just kidding. Mecole, great performance by you. This is a flash in the pan. This is probably one of those performances that we'll never see again for Mecole Hardman. And thanks, Mecole. And if you played him in DFS or something, or you had a touchdown prop for Mecole Hardman, 3 touchdown scorer, I mean, it must have been a ridiculous odds for you to take it. But I've seen people do ridiculous stuff these days in the world of online sports betting. So Mecole Hardman, shout out to you, brother. The wide receiver 4 on the week. Let's round out these top 4 wide receivers, or these top 12 wide receivers, though. Juju Smith-Schuster comes in at wide receiver 4. Paris Campbell 5. Marquise Goodwin 6. Mike Williams 7. DeAndre Hopkins 8. DJ Moore 9. Mike Evans 10. Terry McLaurin 11. And George Pickens, the wide receiver 12. And I'm going to take my round of applause for DJ Moore. Not my wide receiver start of the week by any means. I'm not that bold, but I sat here. I was trying to convince Greg, like, yo, I think this is the week we got to play DJ Moore. And especially the day after the CMC trade, I said it again. I said, hey, look, I made a compelling argument for why we got to play DJ Moore this week. And all I'm saying is I hope you listened, because my man had 19.6 PPR points, probably more points than he scored all season. That's not true, but I hope it's not true for DJ Moore's sake. But yeah, I mean, again, this is kind of what I was anticipating. With no Christian McCaffrey, no Robbie Anderson, these targets have to go somewhere, and I think they're going DJ Moore's way. Not sure what the target share was this past week, but again, those targets have to be funneled to DJ Moore going forward. DeAndre Hopkins, we spoke about him Fantastic performance. Juju Smith-Schuster, I think, finally coming through, right? Finally coming through, being that wide receiver one that Kansas City has been looking for in the absence of Tyreek Hill. And this is back-to-back 100-yard games and a touchdown for Juju Smith-Schuster. So he's turning it on. I think that, yeah, I mean, if he's out there in your league, if he's available, I think this is a guy that you should prioritize because he seems to be getting consistent work within the offense, and he's getting these passes down the field, and they're putting him in places to create some yards after catch. That's where Juju Smith-Schuster excels. So definitely keep an eye on him as we progress forward through this fantasy season. Paris Campbell, I don't know. It'd be a little bit easier to convince me if the Colts didn't bench Matt Ryan, and that is a fact that they benched him. I know they reported that there was some injury. There was an injury concern there with the shoulder, a separated shoulder there for Matt Ryan, but it doesn't seem to matter. Seems like Frank Reich said that move would have came anyway. So the Colts moving to Sam Ehlinger, I don't think Paris Campbell is somebody that I can prioritize ahead of this waiver period on Tuesday. So Mike Williams, great week for him, but he suffered an injury, so that was obviously terrible news. But apparently could have been worse. I didn't see it. I don't want to see it. Look, when it gets to injury, and I played football, played in high school, I played at college, 1AA, not big time football or anything like Northeastern in Boston. We don't have a football team anymore, but either way, played college football. I've seen injuries. I've gotten injured. Nothing crazy ridiculous for me, but I can't watch people tear an ACL or break an ankle or I can't watch people do stuff like that. Maybe it's like some ACL tears, but some of the bad ones, I'm like, nah, I'm not watching it. Not watching it. Don't want to see it. Have nothing. Nope. Like the Trey Lance one, still haven't seen it. People talk about, oh, his ankle went the other way. Nope, haven't seen it. Don't want to see it. Have no desire to see it. Like, why would I want to subject myself to that? People talk about the Mike Williams one. That was one that also could have been bad or looked like he broke his ankle, and it's coming back with a high ankle sprain. So that's great news for Mike Williams there. George Pickens, shout out to you. Didn't out target Deontay, but outperformed him. So if you took the shot on him, good for you. Christian Kirk making a move back to relevancy, so I like that. And Jerry Jeudy, producing with Brett Rippon out there. So, I have no idea what to do with that information, right? Do I look at that Packer? Do I look at the Broncos offense and be like, oh, it's better with Russell Wilson? I'm not going to say that. But it didn't look worse. And I'm going to stop right there. Nothing else really stuck out. Olave, we've been talking about him for weeks now. He had another good game on Thursday Night Football. But let's talk about these Jags. Guys let you down. I know my wide receiver start of the week, that was CeeDee Lamb, was not great. We kind of talked about what happened with Dak there. And, just wasn't a fantastic performance there for all involved. DK Metcalf, he left with a knee injury, so that wasn't great there. Amon-Ra St. Brown, he left with a concussion, not actually in concussion protocol, doesn't seem to have a concussion, but because of the new rules that were implemented with the Tua injury, the Tua concussion, he was not allowed back in that game. Tyler Lockett, he was okay. He was banged up coming into that game. Greg started the week. Alan Lazard was on his way to having a good day, 7 targets, 6 catches, 55 receiving yards, but left that game with a shoulder injury. Michael Pittman Jr., not a great day. Deontay Johnson, we talked about him, not great. Deebo Samuel, that was another one that wasn't great. Brandon Cooks, the matchup was good, but he was not so much. Nico Collins, who I talked about, looked like he was off to a good day, but he left with a groin injury. So, Yeah, Michael Gallup. I didn't realize that was Michael Gallup's stat line. 2 targets, 0 catches. So, um, yeah, not great there. Drake London. I mean, you could tie him in with the whole spiel about Arthur Smith not wanting to win football games and drafting a wide receiver in the top 8 so that he can throw the ball to him one time when they're down um, 18 points. So, yeah, that's great. Keenan Allen, I mean, I couldn't trust Keenan Allen, and he played in the 4 p.m. window. There was no way I was putting Keenan Allen in my lineup. Cortland Sutton, I mean, I said maybe we could play him, but I didn't really want to play him. 9 targets, 3 catches, 23 yards, covered in sauce. Mm, yeah, I think that's pretty much it of guys that disappoint. Oh, Amari Cooper, another one. It actually saved his day with a long grab at the end. Could have actually saved it even more with a touchdown, a potential game-winning touchdown. But they called him for an offensive pass interference. That was a push off. But um, yeah, that's pretty much rounds out the wide receivers. Oh, Tyreek Hill. I thought that day was going to be bigger, man. It's 13 targets, 72 receiving yards. I thought that day was going to be much, much bigger there for Tyreek. But let's move on to these tight end swags. On National Tight End Day, a holiday that I'm pretty sure George Kittle made up, but we don't care. We'll celebrate it nonetheless. National Tight End Day, shout out. And of course, who is the number one scoring tight end on the week? I mean, the week's not over yet, guys, but Cole Kmet, Hunter Henry, they're nipping at George Kittle's heels here. The number one tight end of the week, 6 catches, 9 targets, 98 receiving yards, and a touchdown, 21.8 PPR points there. And I should have known that George Kittle was going to ball because, again, it's the holiday that I'm pretty sure he made up. I'm pretty sure he was mic'd up one day and said, hey, did you know today is National Tight End Day? And that was, they just took it and ran. And so now, every day, this is National Tight End Day. Someone can fact check me on that, but I'm pretty sure that is the origin of National Tight End Day. So, yeah, shout out George Kittle. Appreciate you balling. Gotta love it. The tight end 2 on the week, that would have been my stream of the week, and I'm gonna get my round of applause. Jawan Johnson, man, 5 catches, 5 targets, 32 receiving yards, and 2 touchdowns, 20.2 PPR points. Greg says that he should be the touchdowns or nah tight end of the week. I disagree. My man still had 5 catches. But if you want to talk about a touchdowns or nah tight end of the year, Jawan Johnson might be on that list because my man has made a career of catching touchdowns. Like his whole career stat line is a touchdown or nah type tight end performance. I mean, quickly pull this up. But Jawan Johnson on 36 receptions has 6 touchdown receptions. So a third, did I say that right? A fourth of his, not even a fourth. Wow, John can't do math today. A sixth of his receptions. And you guys come to me for fantasy advice, right? A sixth of his receptions are for a touchdown. So I don't even know how that would actually, I'd have to look at how that rates, but either way, like I'm pretty sure we'll go back at his game logs, like his touchdowns to reception ratio is kind of crazy. And that's actually kind of crazy because he's only scored 2 touchdowns this year. But 19 of his receptions, of his 36 career receptions, came this year. So only 2 touchdowns come this year on 19 receptions versus the previous, I think he's been in the league for 2 years. Yeah, versus the previous 2 years where he's got like 17 receptions for 5 touchdowns or 4 touchdowns. So yeah, my man is basically a touchdown or nah tight end. That's basically how the Saints feel, right? Like Juwan, you feel like scoring a touchdown this week? And they're like, yeah. He's like, yeah, coach, I could do it. And they're like, all right, we'll put you in there. And then my man scores a touchdown. So what Juwan Johnson does. Is this a flash in the pan? I don't want to call it a flash in the pan because it means like this won't happen again or can't happen again, which I think it could. What it really comes down to is I think this was the perfect storm where the matchup was great against Arizona. Adam Troutman wasn't playing, so there were more tight end snaps available. Uh, and then the game script put them in a manner in which they had to throw the football, which means less Taysom Hill, more Juwan Johnson. And then on top of that, there's no Michael Thomas, no Jarvis Landry. So those targets are going to go somewhere. They were finding their way to Olave. They were finding their way to Kamara. And eventually they got to find their way to Juwan Johnson. So shout out to him for getting it done. The tight end 3 on the week, also in the same game as George Kittle. That would be Travis Kelce. 6 catches on 8 targets, 98 receiving yards, 15.8 PPR points. Almost didn't finish as the tight end 3 there. So shout out to Travis Kelce, though, continuing to get it done for you. Has, again, continued to be the most consistent tight end option that there is. And before we round out this top 12, you know what time it is. Got to do the touchdown or nah tight end of the week. And this one was close. It was really close. Came down to 2 players, the tight end 11 and the tight end 12. But ultimately, there was only one decision that had to be made, and it was Taysom Hill. It had to be Taysom Hill because, and I'll shout out Tommy Tremble on this one because he was close, and his one catch for a 29-yard touchdown. So he literally was living touchdown or not. But the difference about this one is, and again, the criteria is, and Taysom Hill fits the criteria to a T. It's least amount of catches, the highest scoring tight end with the least amount of catches, and the least amount of yards, which basically means you had to finish in the top 12. The only reason you could have finished there was a touchdown. So, and that was Taysom Hill, essentially, right? 1 catch, 3 yards, and a touchdown. The only difference is Taysom Hill, when you were putting him in your lineup, if you put him in your lineup, which people did, I'm sure, right? Like, you didn't have Dallas Goedert, because he was on bye or whatever the situation was, you probably went to Taysom Hill because you're like, how bad could it get? When you were putting him in your lineup, you were banking for that rushing touchdown, right? So 3 carries, 9 yards. Didn't get it done that way. This time, though, my man got it done with the reception, and that's why Taysom Hill is your touchdown or not tight end on the week. That and the fact that he was probably in your lineup, so it means a little bit more. But we're throwing out this top 12 here. Pat Freiermuth, Craig's tight end start of the week. Coming in at the tight end 4. David Njoku coming in at 5. Gerald Everett 6. Greg Dulcich 7. Hayden Hurst 8. Evan Ingram 9. Cade Otton 10. And then Taysom Hill coming in at 11 with Tommy Tremble coming in at 12. Greg Dulcich, get this man on your roster. We talked about him. My man was involved. He saw 9 targets. The matchup obviously was good, which we talked about. But, yeah, this is, definitely, I think he's here to stay. Gerald Everett, again, matchup was good. David Njoku, been balling, absolutely balling. Unfortunately, had to leave the game with a high ankle sprain. Man, 7 catches on 7 targets for 71 receiving yards. Straight balling. Pat Freiermuth, Greg's tight end start of the week, 9 targets, 8 catches, 75 receiving yards. Another baller there. So tight ends, man, they were balling this week. But some of them were not balling. And that list starts with Kyle Pitts. It starts with Kyle Pitts. It really does. He was my tight end start of the week. Matchup was great. He's a my guy for me this year. Again, this is, I know Greg gets on here and he talks about generational talent. I don't want to hear it anymore. I'm still going to talk about it. But at the end of the day, like, Drake London is a great receiver. He's one of the highest receivers, one of the highest grades that my wide receiver model has given out to a wide receiver in these past few years. It means nothing if that team is throwing the football 13 times. And so with Pitts, all the upside is gone. There's no upside. The team's not throwing the football. So I say you can snip because continuing to put him out there with the hope that he catches that 50-yard touchdown, or the hope that he, catches finishes with 80 receiving yards, or the hope that Arthur Smith is going to get his head out of his what and just throw the football when you're down, because it's usually what teams do when they trail. They throw the ball 65% of the time, it's math. But Arthur Smith just decides, no, we're going to keep running the football. We're going to run what we run, which is run. Right. So, I don't know if you play Madden, but you play Madden, hey, Madden, give me a play. And it's all dive right, dive left, kneel. That's all the options that he has. Because a forward pass, not in his playbook. And so again, we tie ourselves to good offenses. We want to tie ourselves to good situations. And at the tight end position, there's got to be more incentive for me to want to play a guy. So that's where I'm at with that. TJ Hawkinson, I mean, sure, I would still go by Dalton Schultz if I could. Robert Tonyan, Mike Gesicki, hopefully you didn't go there. Daniel Bellinger, that one hurt. My man fractured his eye socket, had to go to the hospital. So he was out for the game. Not fantastic news there. And I think that is it. All right, let's talk about some of these injuries. So we talked about Breece Hall, ACL. He's out for the year with the meniscus as well. So we'll see you in September, hopefully, Breece. Offensive lineman Elijah Vera Tucker for the New York Jets. He's expected to miss the rest of the season with a torn tricep. Wide receiver for the New York Jets, Corey Davis, is likely week to week with an MCL sprain. Los Angeles Chargers wide receiver Mike Williams likely to miss some time with a high ankle sprain. Los Angeles cornerback J.C. Jackson left Sunday's game with a dislocated kneecap. Wide receiver Nico Collins left Sunday's game with a groin for the Houston Texans. Seattle wide receiver DK Metcalf left Sunday's game with a knee injury. Seems like he has a patella issue. Could have been more serious, but apparently it's not as serious as some thought initially. Cleveland tight end David Njoku left Sunday's game with a high ankle sprain. Quote was, he will be okay, but we know that that's probably a week-to-week thing, multiple week injury. Offensive tackle Evan Neal for the New York Giants. He left Sunday's game with a knee injury. It was later confirmed that he has an MCL sprain and will likely miss 3 to 4 weeks. And the New York Giants tight end Daniel Bellinger, who we just spoke about, left Sunday's game with a fractured eye socket. So I don't know how long of an injury that is and how long he'll be out for, but that's definitely a blow there as well. So let's talk about waivers, and obviously a little bit different than what you're used to, because you're used to me going to Greg and saying, Greg, who we picking up? But instead, you get me and, all my thoughts, and probably won't be as organized as we do with Greg. So forgive me for that. But because I'm just going to brain vomit right now really quick. Greg did send me some notes for waivers, so don't worry. You're going to get Greg's takes, who Greg was target. But, also, again, going to just, brain vomit there. But Daniel Jones, in terms of a waiver wire pickup, I think he's got to be at the top of the list at the quarterback position. With, again, we have, a situation where there are some teams on bye. I don't have them all in front of me right now, but, Daniel Jones is a guy that I'm sure, has some value, adds some value in fantasy leagues, again, because of what he is able to do with his legs. Another team that kind of interests me a little bit is what are the Saints going to do, because their quarterback has a matchup against Las Vegas, which is really nice. So whoever starts there, Andy Dalton or Jameis Winston, I think can definitely help you, help you in your matchups this week. And then I think that is all I'm willing to stick my neck out there for in terms of quarterback right now. Also Tua. If Tua's available, I think I would go after Tua as well. I forget who they play this week, but he's going to get better as he gets obviously acclimated back into the offense. But he should pick up in no time. At running back, we have Gus Edwards, who's 43% rostered in Yahoo leagues. So obviously, if he's available, somebody that you might want to take a look at. And then we have down Chuba Hubbard, who's available 36% of Yahoo leagues. He didn't give me the Foreman, who's 50% rostered. So probably gave us Hubbard because, he's, Foreman's more rostered, but Hubbard obviously was announced the starter. Both these guys were involved. So I think it's definitely a committee. And either one of these guys is basically where you would want to go. If you could get both of them, sure. I don't know. Is that kind of overreaction to what they did last week? Maybe. Isaiah Pacheco, he's another one. If he's available, I would take a shot there as well. Michael Carter with the Breece Hall injury, if he's injured, he's obviously injured, but Michael Carter should see the bulk of that work. But Ty Johnson's also another name. We saw him get, basically immediately involved in this offense once Breece Hall went down. And, Michael Carter's a talented back. You guys know how I feel about him, but he's not a guy that's going to be able to carry the workload for the whole year. So, to me, I think that I would have my eye out on Ty Johnson because I think it's going to become a committee at some point, or not at some point. I think it will become a committee. Whereas, the Hall Carter committee was more like Hall was getting like 60, maybe close to 70, and Carter was getting the rest of it. Where I think with Carter Johnson, it's probably more like 50-50 or 55-45. So I would scoop up Ty Johnson as well. That's all we have at running back. At wide receiver, Wan'Dale Robinson, 29% rostered. Sorry, I just got some news. Deebo Samuel's day-to-day with a hamstring. And you know what I say about day-to-day, really means week to week. And so, yeah. Good thing they have Christian McCaffrey, I guess, right? But Wan'Dale Robinson, had a solid week. It looked like he was going to be off to an even bigger day in PPR leagues, but had a solid week. He is 29% rostered, so somebody that I would prioritize, especially in PPR leagues, mainly PPR leagues. Rondale Moore is another one. He got dropped in a lot of leagues after his performance, and people are going to drop him, but I would look to him as well. Robbie Anderson is going to be a week more acclimated in that offense. I think we see Rondale Moore go back to his more natural position in the slot, which should allow him to soak up some of those targets that, we're so used to that spot in that offense getting, right? We saw Christian Kirk do it. We saw Greg Dortch do it. And now I think Rondale Moore is going to have that opportunity as well. Paris Campbell, he put down at wide receiver, 5% rostered. We kind of talked about that one. Sam Ehlinger. I kind of need to see that offense another week before I make a move like that. And then at tight end, it's really just two names. Greg has down. Greg Dulcich is the first one, 12% rostered. And then, we've obviously spoken about him, the rookie. He's done well through 2 weeks. So, again, that's the name that I would target. And then Juwan Johnson, he has down here 3% rostered. I think that one for me is going to tie into what happens with the tight end situation. If Adam Troutman's out for an extended period of time, then, I'm all in on Juwan Johnson. But if Troutman comes back, then it might be tough. Freiermuth is available in some leagues. I know he was dropped in one of my main leagues. so keep an eye out for him as well. Dalton Schultz, that's another one I keep saying. He had a top 12 week, 5 targets, 49 receiving yards. Thought he was going to get injured again and walk off with an injury, but he definitely has some upside, as well as Cade Otton. Greg's talked about him. We've talked about him with Cam Brate out. Cade Otton, gets this opportunity here. So he's a guy that I would definitely look to target. But yeah, that's pretty much all we got. That's all she wrote. So everyone, we appreciate y'all. But apparently I could still talk even if I'm by myself. So with that being said, y'all, appreciate you tapping in. Hopefully you weren't you didn't catch any strays this past week. So yeah. With that being said, y'all, have a good one. Enjoy Monday Night Football. And we'll see y'all on Wednesday when we break down Thursday Night Football. We have a decent one this week too. Baltimore Ravens taking on Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So it might actually be a good game here. We'll talk to y'all later. Have a good one. We're out of here. Peace. Welcome into the Fantasy Football Diagnostics Podcast.